first option for virtual tours, and I better preface it by saying there's a lot of options. There's a lot more options out there that are available that I'm not familiar with. I mean, there's really a lot of platforms. These are just the ones that are kind of tried and true, that I have personal experience with, so I feel like I can like speak intelligently about them and pass along my information. But that does not mean that these are the only options out there. So the very first one is a Zillow 3D tour. I know there's a little bit of like a love-hate relationship among realtors with Zillow. That's what I've understood from working with a few agents. And but it is a completely free platform, and it's the only platform that I know of that is completely free to host. You do have to have an iPhone 7 or newer. It does not currently support Android, and it does not currently support an older version of an iPhone. So the pros to the Zillow 3D are that there's free hosting. If you already have an iPhone 7 or later, it's completely free to go in and do, and it's very simple. The cons are that the quality isn't superb. It's not a true 3D or 360 walkthrough experience, and I'll show you some examples here in a little bit. And then the third con is that it drives traffic to Zillow. And from what I understand, I'm a photographer, not a realtor, but obviously I work with a lot of agents, and I understand that having traffic driven to Zillow isn't necessarily an agent's favorite thing in the world. So so that's the first option. So I'm going to go through the options, and then I'm going to actually show you what all of those different options look like and kind of teach you how to capture all of those. The second option is the Zillow 3D tour also, but you can use a 360 camera, and there's certain 360 cameras that are supported. You can buy a 360 camera for under $400, and they're quite easy to use. The higher quality 3D cameras are maybe $1,000, and they are better quality. But the lower end 3D camera, which the ones that Zillow support are called Ricoh is the brand, R-I-C-O-H, and Theta are the models. So the Ricoh Theta is the 360 camera that is supported by Zillow. And the pros with this one is, again, there's free hosting. It's definitely a better quality than what you're going to capture with your iPhone. It's more of a 360, so you can look up, you can pan up and down, if there's pretty trim work or like a vaulted ceiling or something, you can see all of that with a 360 camera, whereas you can't with an iPhone. The cons, again, are that it's not a true walkthrough experience, and it drives traffic to Zillow. So that's the second option. The third option, which I think probably a lot of you have heard about, is Matterport. It's been around for a really long time. Matterport it's a platform, so it's a hosting platform, which basically means it's just software that stores the information, like the virtual tour information. But Matterport also is a kind of camera. But Matterport has recently opened their platform up to support other 360 cameras, which is really good because their Matterport camera was insanely expensive, like $3,500. And it was very, very slow, and I use the term clunky. It was just kind of clunky to use and hard to shoot and time consuming. It just didn't make it very efficient or cost effective for either a photographer or an agent, quite frankly. So having them open their platform up to other 360 cameras has been, a really big help and a really big benefit. Their platform, their Matterport platform, supports 3 other 360 cameras. Both of the Theta cameras that I talked to you before, and there's another camera called the Insta360, and that is another camera that is supported by Matterport. So the pros for Matterport is that it's a much higher quality. It's a true walkthrough experience. Like you can really step through the house, look all around, and it also creates like a 3D. It's a real 3D platform. And it creates like a 3D dollhouse model of the house, which gives a potential buyer or a buyer like a really good idea of the spatial orientation of the house. The cons with Matterport is that it's more expensive because the platform that they host it on, you have to pay like a monthly subscription fee, and it's pretty costly per space to host, especially the more entry-level plans. And then it's a lot more time consuming to scan than like the Zillow is a lot faster. The last option, and it's just worth noting, is that like a video tour would be probably the last like virtual tour option. The pros of that is that it's the highest quality I think that you're gonna get. It has a very professional feel, and there's no hosting costs, so you're not depending on a third-party platform. You know, it can be hosted on Vimeo or YouTube or some other kind of, you know, free medium. The cons is that you just need a higher level of experience and equipment, you know, to be able to put one together, as far as, you know, capturing the video and then also editing it and putting it together to make it look professional. So those are the first, those are the 4 options that I'm really going to talk about. I'm going to spend most of the time talking about the first 3. Debbie, are we okay on like questions or anything at this point? Do I need to answer?
Yep, no questions. I think people just want to see a visual.
Perfect. Okay. So the first one that I'm going to talk about and elaborate on is the Zillow 3D with the iPhone. So I'm going to show you an example of it first. And so I'm going to try to do this screen share. So let's hope it works okay. Oh, it says host disabled participant screen sharing. So Debbie, you might need to make me a co-host or something. Okay, let me try this again.
Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, you are now the host.
Okay, great. All right, can you guys give me a thumbs up? Can everybody see? Yep, okay, great. Okay, so this is the Zillow 3D that was shot with an iPhone. People over here kind of covering up my thing. So, okay, so here's the front door. So if you just, this was one I already did. I shot, I uploaded to Zillow. It's a very simple process. I mean, really, we played around with trying to get it to screen share the actual app. But it was, it kept crashing Zoom. So we're at our, you know, we have to depend on Zoom for some of this, so not everything works. I apologize for that. But so you can see how with the iPhone, you literally just put the Zillow 3D app on your phone, and then you create an account, like a Zillow 3D account, and I'm going to send out instructions that have exactly what app you need and all of the information following this webinar. And then there's a button on there that just says Start Capture. So you start where you want to start, like at the front door, and you click the Start capture, and there's a blue, essentially like a little blue horizontal line, and you just have to line your phone up on the screen with that blue line and spin holding your phone like really slowly. You just have to follow the blue line in a circle all the way around, and then it will tell you when it's done. And then this is the result that you get. So you can see that some of it looks a little bit blurry. I mean, it's all done handheld, no tripod or anything. You're literally just holding the phone. And then it has some, it had a few problems stitching things together correctly. There's a couple of things that are just, a little bit off center. But it gets the job done. You can definitely see, geez, the stairs are right there to the left of the front door. Debbie, I'm going to tell you really quick. I think now that I'm the host, there's a lot of people that are you still like a co-host, because there's people wanting to be admitted into the meeting still?
Hang on a second. Can you hit the admit button?
Well, yeah, it disappeared on me.
Okay. I think you're actually the real host, like the full host.
Okay. Sorry, I'm not sure how to get back to.
Well, the webinar has started, so that's all right.
Okay.
Move forward, and that's fine.
Okay. Okay, so this is how, like I said, it gets the job done. You can see, where the living room is in relation to the kitchen, and where the stairs are in relation to the living room. Then you can go on to the next one. This is where I was kind of talking. I think this was one of the images that, maybe didn't stitch together quite as well. It's a little garbled over here and things like that. But this is what the 3D tour looks like with the phone. Now, if you scroll, you can't, if you grab this hand, I'm just using the mouse here, and if you grab this and try to pull it down or push it up, nothing happens, because it's just, it wasn't a true 360. It was just, held with your iPhone going around in a circle. So this is what this looks like. Now you can tell by the information on the right, the little squares on the right, you can jump and you can label these however you want to label them. So you can jump from, the front door to the back door. You can jump around the house however you want. But one thing you'll notice is that you can't necessarily tell how all of the spaces connect to each other unless you, and I'll show you how that's different with Matterport. Matterport just does a different and a better job of that. So this is the first example of the Zillow 3D tour. I'm going to show you the second example, and this is a Zillow 3D tour with a 360 camera.
Hey, Farah, can you just show how you jump from one?
Sure. So you just click over here to the different labels and pictures. And so if you click over here on the bathroom, then here it'll take you to the bathroom. And scroll you around. So I'm just literally grabbing this and, using the mouse to scroll me around. One thing that is worth noting too, that I didn't write this in my notes, but I just thought of it. With Zillow, you are able to capture outside exterior shots. Like this is a pool area that was really nice. You can't do that with Matterport. Matterport is only interior pictures because it kind of creates this 3D of the house. So Zillow is nice for the 360 exterior, which is not supported in Matterport. Okay, so here's the second example. This is a Zillow 3D tour that I did with a 360 camera. So the main difference is if you see I pull it up and I pull it down, you can see above and below where it is. It's not just a horizontal walkthrough. It's exactly the same platform. Zillow is exactly the same platform. So you can click over here to go to the different spaces in the house. But one of the differences, the difference is that I can see up if I want to see what the, a big grand open staircase looks like, and I can see down. You can also see that it's a little bit better quality. You don't see a lot of the, squiggly lines, and, the windows aren't completely blown out, and things just look a little bit more symmetrical. So this is a Zillow shot with a 360 camera. And again, this is stuff that, equipment that you can invest in and, do your own 360 tours. In none of the 360 tours that I've seen, the image quality is not at all like what we take with our cameras. But, in my world, it just serves a different purpose. I mean, it serves a different purpose as, looking around the room, feeling like you're there. And, I personally don't feel like the image quality has to be, as you're not putting it on the front of your listing. You're not saying, hey, come look at this beautiful property. It's not like, you don't need it to create like your very best image from. So it definitely, it gets the job done. So the tips about capturing these images with Zillow, I'm just going to run through some of the things that I started. So you download the 3D Zillow app on your phone. So you actually initiate it from your phone. You connect your phone. If you're using your phone, you video with the phone. If you're using a 360 camera, you have to take the app and you have to connect it to the 360 camera. And whatever 360 camera you choose will have an app of its own, and it will walk you through how to get the two connected to talk to each other. It's very simple. They do a really good job of, it's not technically complicated at all. I mean, it literally just steps you through how to do it. Then you essentially need to start your tour the way that makes sense to you. The first few that I did, I didn't really have like a rhyme or reason about how I was capturing them, and I realized it's really important to do it maybe the way that you would actually show a house. So I start at the front door, and then I usually go into the spaces that connect next. So like in this particular house, we started at the patio. The very first house, or the very first room off of the entryway, was the office. Beyond the office was the kitchen and the dining room and the living room and so forth. So I just maneuver around the house in a way that I think really makes sense, that if you were showing a house, you would walk in and you'd go to the right and you'd go into the office, and then you'd go into the living room, and then you'd maybe go back through the house and up the stairs. So I think it's important to keep to keep it simple, and to shoot it in a way, because however you shoot it is how it's going to show up initially once you upload it to Zillow or wherever it's going. You can give each space a name, and it doesn't have to be a unique name. So if it's a really large kitchen with a big island, and you want to take 3 different pictures of the kitchen from 3 different locations, you can call them all kitchen. They don't have to be kitchen 1, kitchen 2, kitchen 3. You can label them kitchen, and it just gives you 3 different vantage points of the kitchen. So you can do more or less however much detail you feel like you want to provide your client. You can provide as much or as little as you want. Let's see. Once you have gone through and you have captured the house, then there's within the Zillow app, there's a button that just says to, upload and complete and upload. and it will do that. And then it will send another, it will send you an email in probably 15 minutes saying that it's ready. And then after that, you can choose to either publish it or to just, or not to publish it. So if you want to wait, if you have a listing maybe that is coming up, but it's not active yet, you can hold off on publishing it until it goes active, and then you can just go ahead and publish it, and it'll publish it right to Zillow. That Zillow then connects to your same login. I'm sorry about that. Sorry, hang on, my printer's printing. I gotta unplug it or it's gonna be very noisy.
So Farah, let me just take this time to say our chat, we're working on trying to get the chat feature up and running. Somehow it seems to have stopped working. So bear with us while we try to figure that out.
Okay, sorry about that. My printer was going crazy.
Sure. Farah, I'm going to ask you also to pause for a second.
Sure.
Can you go down to your toolbar on the bottom and where it says and click on participants and see about, will that, actually, no, I apologize. That's not going to be where it is. If you click on my window, can you make me a co-host?
Just click on your window.
On my window in the upper right-hand corner, you'll see like a mute button and 3 little dots that appear.
Okay,
click
I got it.
All right. Thanks so much. All right, and then you're good.
Okay, so then once you're finished with that, once you publish it, then you can log in on your desktop, same email and password that you set up with on the app. And once you put it into the, once you open it on the desktop, then you can get the link that you would need to provide the MLS, and Jason will go through that with you in a little bit. So that's the link that you need to put it in the MLS. So that's it about Zillow. I know that's kind of a lot, but like I said, I do have a printout that I'm gonna send with Debbie so that you guys have access to all of it. Probably the number one, the couple of tips, kind of best practices tips, I would say is if you're shooting it with your phone, you want to hold it a little lower than you would think. Like our tendency is to hold it up here in front of our face, but what that ends up doing is showing a lot of ceiling and not very much floor. And generally floors in a house are more interesting than ceilings. So you really want to try to hold it, like I would say almost belly button high, and you want to keep it nice and upright, vertical. And you don't want to tip it this direction or this direction. And then you just want to move slow and steady along with those lines that show on the screen. But holding it a little lower than you think is probably the best tip that I can give you, and just try to move slow and steady. And then, like I said, going in the order that makes sense to you. Okay. I'm going to show you now the Matterport, because I think this is the other, just really powerful tool that's more of the true walkthrough experience.
And Farah, can I stop you for one quick second?
Yeah.
Okay, so I just have a question.
Mm-hmm.
Are we able to use Zillow without Wi-Fi or cell service? Do you know that?
That's a really good question. Honestly, I don't know the answer to that.
Okay, we'll see if we can do that.
Without Wi-Fi, yes. But without cell service, I don't know.
Okay. All right, and just to let everybody know, we've got the chat feature working, so if you wanted to chat any questions, feel free to do that. Again, you just drag your mouse to the bottom of the screen, you'll see the toolbar pop up, and there's a chat feature.
Okay, so this is the Matterport tour. like I said, this is supported by the 360 cameras that I was talking about earlier. Hosting is extra, a little more expensive, but the end result is this dollhouse view that a lot of people really, really like. So it's truly like a 360 view. You can rotate it, you know, all different directions. This was mostly a ranch style house with kind of like an unfinished space above the garage, but if it was a 2-story house, you'd be able to see from this view that it was, you know, 2-dimensional. Then you can just click on this guy over here and it shows you around. So this, what I was talking about, this being a little bit more of a true walkthrough experience, there's these little discs on the floor. And so wherever those discs are is where one of the scans was. So you actually take the camera through the house on a little tripod or monopod, and you scan every 4 to 8 feet apart so that it's more of a walkthrough experience. So again, you can look up, you can look down, and I would venture to guess that this is, you know, my opinion is that this is one of the better quality pictures. It has a little better quality than Zillow, even though you're using the exact same camera, because the platform itself, whether it's Matterport or Zillow, has technology built in it that takes that data and interprets it and then, you know, spits it back out, so to speak. So I think that this is just a little bit better, you know, quality. The images are a little bit crisper, and it's definitely a little bit more of like a true walkthrough experience. So it really feels like you're walking all the way through the house. My best practices for this is making sure that every scan that you do, you could like literally draw a straight line on the ground, or there's a sight line between scans. So if I would have done one here in the doorway, say, and then one over here in the corner, if I was standing in the corner and I couldn't see this one, I couldn't get from point A to point B without like going a different route. And that I think can be a little bit frustrating. So I almost always do one on each side of the doorway so that you can just get around the house from every direction. Like I think I noticed when I was over here, I could go this direction around the island, but then I couldn't get back. I couldn't get all the way around the island because I didn't scan it properly. So, so this is just, yeah, so this is Matterport, and it's just, you know, again, a little bit different. I like the true walkthrough experience, and I like the 3D modeling, but it's more expensive. And, you know, the Zillow freebie with your phone, if your intention is really just to kind of show how the spaces are connected together, it certainly gets the job done. One of my other like best practices tips, regardless of what platform you're shooting on, is just take a tour of the house before you get started, and move anything that you don't want there, because it's a 360 camera. If something is anything that the camera can see is going to be in the picture. So you can't like leave you know, shoes by the front door and then move them. It doesn't like that one, because it gets a little bit confused on how all the spaces fit together. And 2, it just sees a lot more than a typical still camera sees. So I think it's always helpful to go just take a nice little tour around the house, you know, get everything exactly the way you want it, and then go back through and shoot it. Starting by the front door, keeping it chest high is where you want to shoot, even if you're using a 360 camera. Pay attention to mirrors. It's very, very easy to end up in a mirror, even if it's like a mirror over the fireplace and you're shooting someplace else. I'll get my scans back and realize that I can see myself in the mirror over the fireplace if I was standing in the kitchen. So you've got to watch mirrors. They can be tricky. Scan open spaces in multiple locations, but if you're in a small space, like a bathroom or something, scanning just inside the doorway is a really good place to scan, as opposed to up like next to a wall, because you'll be able to see the entire room, but then also out into the hallway, as opposed to like if you go all the way around and you're like right next to a wall, half of your picture as you're scanning around is just the wall. So kind of making sure everything around you is open when you choose your scan point. For Matterport, a house can have anywhere from 35 to 75 scans. That gives you just an idea of, you know, that it can be a little bit more time consuming than Zillow. So again, if you know want something quick and cheap, Zillow's where it's at. I think that is all I have. I'm going to, again, I made out this nice document and it's 4 pages long and gives you lots of best practices, tips, how-tos, all of the information that I covered today.
Okay, and we'll provide that to everybody on the GCAR education page. So you go to GCAR education, you go to the calendar, and the upper right-hand section of the calendar is going to have all the recorded webinars that we've done, including this one. I think this one will be out there tomorrow, and we'll have the attachments available to you. All right, so the one, I did have some feedback in the chat room, and it said that somebody had tried to do a Zillow 3D tour in a home without Wi-Fi and cell service, and it would not work. So that's
that
just
very well could be, yeah.
It's not right. Okay, so I don't see any other questions.
I looked it up, by the way. I'm sorry. I looked it up. Zillow absolutely needs either cell data or Wi-Fi to work.
Okay.
Wait, one other question here is, any idea for Zillow if you don't have an iPhone?
A 360 camera is probably the only thing to do.
All right, and can you repeat the camera
audio at
information?
the same time with the video?
I'm sorry, please repeat that question.
I'm sorry, I'm on a cell phone. I couldn't tell whether I'm in the chat room or if I raise my hand and you can hear me. Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay, honey, thank you. My question is, when you're doing the Zillow walkthrough, can you do a video and have audio narration as you're going through the home, or no?
I don't think so, but don't quote me on that because I'm not 100% sure. It's not something I've ever done before. Based on my experience with the Zillow app, I would say 90% sure no.
All right, and then another question is, when do you put the descriptions on each room?
I do it as I'm shooting. So before you capture the room, it will ask you to label the room. And there's suggestions that pop up. I mean, all your normal things. But if you don't like what they use, you can choose a custom and you could enter whatever you wanted.
Okay.
I have a question.
Sure, go ahead.
Is there an option to just simply do a video from your phone and then just upload it to the listing versus doing it through Zillow or getting a 360 camera?
That's probably a question for Jason.
Okay.
I don't.
Yes, you can.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Jason. That's very emphatic.
Jason, would you recommend just if you took a video, would you recommend like putting it on something like YouTube and then linking out to it? Or I guess maybe you'll cover all that.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing I can say about putting a video, doing a video and uploading it to your listing is knowing whether or not it's branded or unbranded, which I'm going to go over in a minute. And when you want it to be unbranded, which is what most people want, ultimately, making sure that you're not putting it somewhere that brands you.
Okay. All right. I think. All right, it doesn't look like there's any other questions. I mean, if anybody wants, we can try to let people ask some other questions verbally. You just hold your space bar down. It'll allow you to unmute yourself, and then when you drop off of the space bar, it'll stop.
I've got
Debbie,
Any
I
other
think-
questions?
Yeah.
Yeah, real
Oh.
quick. Thank you. I was just wondering about hosting directly on Ricoh instead of going through Matterport, but using the Ricoh camera, but they have a hosting service themselves, which is unlimited for a monthly or yearly subscription.
I think that's definitely an option. It's just not something I can speak to because it's not something I have done. I know that I don't know enough about it to advise about it. But yes, I think if they have one and you're familiar with it and you wanted to use it, that would be just fine.
Okay. I have another question here. They were wondering what account Farah uses to start Zillow 3D Home. Email as a username, Google, Apple, Facebook.
I think it's just my email.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I have just like an email and a password, and then that's how I get logged into the app, and then also how I get logged into the 3D link on my desktop to
Okay.
provide for the MLS or listing information.
All right. I have another question here. It says, can you use a 35mm camera that uses SD card for video?
Yes, if your camera records video, yes, you can use that, but not for Zillow and not for Matterport. You would have to do, like they were talking about, recording your own video and then hosting it on a place like YouTube or Vimeo. And again, Jason can talk more about that, but you can certainly capture the video using that. I would recommend, if you are going to capture your own video with a DSLR camera, I would recommend investing in a gimbal because it just takes a lot of the shake and the bounce out of your footage.
Okay. What's the next one? Hey, I think that's it. Somebody's asking a question about chatting privately or as a group. If you are going to try and use the chat feature, next to your name, there's a drop-down arrow, and you get to choose whether you're sending a chat to everyone or sending a chat to somebody privately. So just FYI. We would encourage you not to do the private chats and just do it here. But all right, so Farah, thank you so much for all your information. I appreciate all your time.
Thanks for having us.
Are you going to stay on while Jason does his, or?
Definitely, I'm just going to mute myself.
All right, so we just need to get Jason to be a host. So let's see if I can do this. All right, I don't know why, Farah, but somehow I don't have the controls back to make Jason a host. Can you click on those three little dots next to his name and make him a host? Did we just lose her? All right, Jason, look and see if you can do a share screen.
I can't. I'm already trying.
You're already trying, of course.
Okay, I just made him a co-host,
Okay, thanks.
I think, so. And I'm still here, I'm just muted.
Oh, so that means you dropped to the back of the pack. All right, Jason, let me know when you have it.
I can share my screen now.
Okay, good.
I'm not going to quite yet, but I can.
Okay. All right, it's all yours.
Oh, thank you. So, hi, everybody. So weird. So basically, the first thing that I want to kind of go over with all the new, rules about open houses and not doing live open houses and stuff like that, there's kind of a different option that you have. So the virtual tour, which is kind of what Farah went over, that's something that has always been there. You've always been able to do it. You can always upload it to Paragon, something I'm going to show you how to do it in just a minute. There's also a thing called a virtual open house. And the primary difference is that a virtual tour is something that's pre-recorded. You upload it, it's there, people go to it, they look it up, they see it, it's there, that's it. A virtual open house is something that you would do live like you would a real open house, only you set it up for a certain time and place, and then you go through the house and do kind of a FaceTime or a Zoom or whatever kind of a meeting you'd want to do to make that happen. So, difference is the open house is live, the virtual tour is pre-recorded. If you do a virtual open house, the recommendation is not to make it any more than an hour long. So when I show you how to input one, you don't want to put it in for 12 hours and have people not be interested in what you're showing. You want to do it, 15, 20 minutes is good. Hours, absolute most that you want to have. Okay? So for the virtual tour, and this is something that I get a lot of, we get a lot of calls on. We get a lot of people that are confused. There's branded virtual tours and there's unbranded virtual tours. A branded virtual tour includes your name, your brokerage, your cell phone number, any kind of information that can identify you as the listing agent. An unbranded virtual tour has none of that. And if you want your virtual tour to be posted on public sites and just lost my train of thought. Sorry. Basically, if you want the public to be able to see your virtual tour, you have to make the virtual tour unbranded. And that being said, YouTube is a real popular format to use to put videos on for virtual tours. YouTube is extremely difficult to make unbranded. It's not impossible, but it's very difficult because your name is included somehow, your brokerage is included somehow, phone numbers are included somehow. There's your branding is getting on that YouTube link. So if you do make a YouTube one, just make sure that you're not on there at all. The other thing that I want to mention real quick, when you make the virtual tour, and you put the URL in, the URL can't contain your name or your brokerage or anything either. That actually brands you and it makes it a branded virtual tour. So you want to make sure that the URL address, the address that's up on the top of the screen, is not, doesn't have your name on it to show that it's you. So that's just something to kind of keep in mind. We get a lot of people that the URL has their name on it or something, some kind of identifying mark, and they end up having to take it off the unbranded virtual tour. Okay, moving right along. I'm going to share my screen.
Can I ask a quick question while you're doing that?
Yes.
Why would you want to have a virtual tour, or why wouldn't you want to have a virtual tour branded? If you're the agent, you want people to be able to contact you.
Right, but if you want that virtual tour to syndicate out to Zillow, Realtor.com, any other third-party websites, it has to be unbranded because you're not. You can't give that information because the public is usually working with an agent as well. So
Okay.
you want to be able to get the information. Everyone has a fair shot at the information.
I see.
Okay, and I'm going to just suggest that we just hold the questions until after Jason's done, and then throw your questions into the chat feature if you don't mind, please. Thank you.
All right, so I'm on my my little test listing here, and what I will do first is I will make sure. Well, this worked yesterday and doesn't work now. Fantastic. Well, can everybody see my mouse? Okay. I'm gonna assume that you can. This is my test listing, and the to input a virtual tour, you'll go to Actions, you go to Maintain Listing, you'll go over to Select an Action, you will go to Add Edit Virtual Tour, and then your fields come up. Now you can do this as well when you're inputting the listing. If you have it all, if it's all done ahead of time and you want to just put it all in the listing, under the marketing detail, you can put these exact same fields come up. So they're there for you. But if you're doing it after the fact, it's easier to just go to select an action and hit add edit virtual tour. You need to know the URL address for the virtual tour. You put the URL in, type it in, or copy and paste it, hit save. And then we'll go back to our listing. And you'll see under unbranded virtual tour, there's a link there. I'm going to hit the link, and it takes me right to my computer's old. Sorry. But it'll take you right to the virtual tour that you inputted into that URL, whether it's branded or unbranded. And here it's coming up very slowly, but there it is. This is one of Farah's examples. Okay, so that's how you do a virtual tour. If you want to do a virtual open house, you're in the listing again. You go to Actions, Maintain Listing, select an action, Add Edit Open House. Now, before all of this wonderful virus stuff happened, there was different fields that you would fill to tell about a live open house that's for real. This is a virtual open house, and it's going to have different fields. So you're going to go to Add New, and you're going to input the information that requires you to have. So the live stream URL, again, that's the URL for the Zoom meeting or the FaceTime or whatever platform you're using to host your your open house, your virtual open house. You'll put the URL in that first box. You'll put the date that it starts, the date that it ends, or I'm sorry, the time that it starts and the time that it ends. We're in Eastern time. That should be default, but if it isn't, make sure it is. And then you do have to put some kind of a comment in there. It's a little bit of a pain in the rear, but you do have to put in a comment. You have to say, house is great. Okay? Once you've got some comments in there, you're done. You've got all your fields filled out. You hit save. Now it's going to tell me that I'm no good because I have missing information. So I'll go in and I'll fill it out. Set the date. I'll hit save again. Okay, and it keeps telling me that my URL is no good. So that'll help you. If you did something wrong with your URL, the system will tell you, hey, I don't like your URL. Maybe you should try again. So that's definitely good information to have. The URL, if it's no good, it'll tell you, it'll warn you that you're not going to be okay with your virtual open house. Okay. Cancel. Once it publishes, the virtual open house will appear just like a regular open house does on listings. So you'll see that the virtual open house is Saturday from 1 to 2 in the afternoon. Last but not least, if you want to enter a virtual open house that will syndicate to Zillow, you have to put it in the public remarks. Now, other third-party sites do that as well. So when you set up your virtual open house and you've got it in Paragon, that covers Realtor.com and covers Paragon. When you put it in the public remarks, it'll cover it for Zillow and other third-party sites. So basically, the format for that, and this was published a little while ago. Suzanne published it for everyone to see on the listing, on the member message. And I have also given, I have my notes here, which you're all going to get a copy of, the notes from what I just went over. It has the format down there. The format has to be exact, or it will not pick up, Zillow will not pick it up. The format is, you put it in quotation marks, hashtag virtual open house, all one word, the URL for the listing, the date, the start time, the end time, and quotation marks. And again,
Right.
you don't have to scramble to write that down because you're going to have it.
Okay, and Jason, one quick thing. Somebody asked the question, where do you get the correct URL address?
The example here has, is https://us04web.zoom.us, and then there's even more after that. What it's looking for is it a Zoom? Is it a YouTube Live? Is it a Facebook? It's basically looking for those keywords to ensure that you're getting the right URL. I put Gmail in there, so it's obviously not gonna, you're not gonna get any virtual open houses at Gmail.
All right. And then the other question is, what was the other site besides Zoom to publish the virtual tour? So this is a document you're going to share, right?
Live stream open houses, you can all see this, I hope. Live stream
Yes.
open houses are on Zoom, Google Meet or Hangouts, WebEx, Blue Jeans, Join.me, and Zoho Meeting. And basically what I would do if you don't know, if you look at that and say, well, what is that? Throw that word in Google and you'll get all the information you need.
Okay. All right, hang on, there's another question. All right, so Suzanne Close is saying there are a host of sites that are accepted, but those are limited by Zillow or Paragon or any other vendor, just as a aside.
And also the other thing I wanted to mention too, and I'm looking at my notes again, the virtual open house or the open house, add, edit, open house is different than add, edit, tour. And that's the way it always has been in the system. It will take you to very similar windows, but a tour is more like a broker thing, broker open houses and the broker tours and things like that. Whereas the open house is more something that you would use for the public. But that when you open them now, they'll both look almost exactly the same when you open.
Okay. All right, if there's any other questions, please throw them into the chat for us. If not, I think that concludes our program for today. And again, you'll get a copy of all of the documentation so that you can do this all easily on your own. So,
Can you hear me?
yes.
I'm sorry. I did type a question. I thought it was to Jason in the chat. My
Okay.
question is that I've been attending several other of these kind of meetings about the virtual open houses, and some of the folks were saying that they were having better luck conducting them not during the regular open house times that we do on the weekend, Saturday or Sunday, late morning to mid-afternoon or to early afternoon, but rather in the early evening when people are going through their emails and are tending to be in front of their TVs or whatever. Have you heard any feedback about that?
I haven't heard much feedback about that, but that's more of a realtor thing and not an MLS thing. But it's an excellent point. I think it's definitely something that everyone should take note of, because you know, people aren't going out like they do on the weekends now. So to have an evening open house is probably advantageous and in some ways pretty smart.
Thank you.
All right, and then I have another question here. What is the difference between live stream open house versus virtual open house?
I'm sorry, I'm using the terms interchangeably, and I probably shouldn't. Live stream open house is what we're really talking about. A virtual open house, the definition of a virtual open house is anything that's not, you're not face to face. You're doing it on the computer or otherwise. But a live stream is the word I practiced all day yesterday to try to make sure I didn't screw that up. But yeah, it's live stream is what you want, is the terminology you want to use.
So what you were talking about here today is live stream open houses where
Yes.
it's going on live.
Yes. Yeah. Again, it goes back to the beginning of the presentation. Anything that's pre-recorded is a virtual tour. Anything that's live would be a live stream open house.
Okay. All right, and hang on, I think we have two other ones. Can you remind me what iPhone is needed for Zillow? I think she said iPhone
7 or better.
7 or better, yep. Virtual is recorded, somebody just popped in to say. Okay. All right, and so just to let so we're all done for today's webinar. Thank you everyone for joining us. We appreciate your time. If you have any suggestions on topics you would like to hear about, please send me or Jason an email. My email is disom@gcar.com. And then Jason, what's yours?
J Hyatt, JHYATT @globalmls.com.
Okay, and you can find them also, I believe, on the website. And then also we do have some education coming up next week on Monday afternoon, Thursday morning, and then we'll have another, we'll have a webinar next Thursday from 2 to 3 on the Collaboration Center of the MLS. So stay tuned for those. You can go to the calendar at gcar.com and you can register for any of those. All right. Thank you so much again for joining us. We will see you next week. Take care. Thanks, Jason. Thanks, Farah.